We are live. I think we've
About
figured
in
out
time.
most of the technical bugs. Welcome to
That's
the
great
G
news.
Hour.
Definitely an improvement because I can see you and I can see G.
We had some struggles last stream where Eric was in the dark, so that's always fun.
I usually am. I usually am.
So,
So
what's good?
I don't know. Is this our season opener or what?
Sure, why not?
I think by necessity.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's gonna be a hoot, bro.
totally.
For
Big
one thing, I
old
just went to the
hoot.
Flushing Meadows Corona Park yesterday for the first time.
All
We
right,
don't have to get way into that, but we definitely could if we wanted to.
so you have lived in New York for what? 9 years? 8 years?
10.
10
Yeah.
years.
I'd never been.
Never been to the Ground Zero 1, not to be confused with Ground Zero 2.0, which is where the World Trade Center is. Ground Zero
Yeah.
1 is Flushing Meadows Corona Park.
Yeah, bro.
How
It
was
was
it?
yeah, I always the only thing I had seen was like the Unisphere, just the top of it from over the trees and whatever the UFO things are called
Driving from the
from
airport.
yeah, on from the highway.
Yeah.
And and the UFO things are just so like I assumed the whole place was dilapidated.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was like an upkept, like maintained park. Um the Queens Museum was cool. Like there was a lot of shit related to the World's Fair that I enjoyed seeing there, but I was definitely disappointed that it wasn't actually like a museum about Queens. Like
Right.
Queens is such a fascinating place, such a unique place in both our country and the world. So they could really do a lot more. They have space to do more,
Hmm.
but
Did they talk about in the museum? Did they like reference the history of Flushing's, like the park where it was like a ash dump in
there
the
were like little
1800s?
bits and pieces. I didn't see anything on that specifically. Um, and the coolest thing about it was the panorama, they call it. It's like this giant scale model of New York City, and it's just like a walkway now. You can walk around it and like ascend up. It, people used to be in these little like car things that we've talked about, and it was like a slow 8-minute ride, narrated ride around this giant model of New York City.
What was it called?
um, the panorama. It was like a birth. It was an idea of Robert Moses, and he was really strict about making sure that this thing was accurate down to less than 1% margin of error in terms
Whoa.
of scaling it properly. So it was to the point, like I didn't know that when we first walked in, and I was just curious, and I was looking for like my apartment building in Upper Manhattan. I was like so I like oriented myself. I found 155th Street. I counted from there, and I'm like, holy shit! I think this thing has everything down to the lot. And sure enough, I could like see my building because it was
Wow.
next to a firehouse, and the firehouse was indicated by a yellow light. It's like, holy shit! And then sure enough, like it is a true model of New York City.
That's
And
sick.
yeah, it's so rad. And it's huge. And like I had seen these little pictures, and I you can't try to find one that shows like people in the room looking at it,
Yeah,
like
there's
that includes the walkway.
okay. And they don't update it or they do.
Okay, so to your point about Ground Zero,
They update it
they
up until the
did
Twin
updated it.
Towers.
Yes, until 9/11, and now it is a memorial. It acts like just as a de facto memorial to 9/11 to the towers. Isn't that fucking nuts? Like it was built with the intention of being able to update it over time, and they did keep updating it. And then I don't know if they've completely stopped since then, But like, yeah, it still has the twin towers. Isn't that
Crazy.
fucking gnarly?
What is this Campbell Junior High School? Panorama booster with the sun? What is that?
I don't know. The Joseph Campbell, like
How do you spell Campbell?
roses, whatever.
Yeah, J. It's just a junior high out there. Why, like,
In Queens or what?
yeah.
Just the Corona.
I wonder if it's still around. If it's because, like, when you pull it, it's just like all old pins.
What's the address?
I wonder if it's not there anymore. Yeah, I feel like it's maybe doesn't exist anymore. I don't know.
Can you
It's
see
just
what
everything's
neighborhood
from
it
like
was
the 50s and 60s. What was that?
Can you tell what neighborhood it was in?
It was in Flushing.
Flushing, got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. One thing that I realized being out there is
Wow.
like the
See
fact.
the door there.
So I didn't realize this, but LaGuardia Airport was built in 1939. Like I think it was completed in 1939. So the completion of LaGuardia and the first World's Fair coincide. And it must be the case that part of the reason they chose that location for LaGuardia was because of how many planes would be passing over Queens right there. And so for one thing, you've got noise, but for another thing, like, you know, air flight was so recent at the time, I'm sure it was also a safety concern. So while you're in the park, these airplanes are just zooming over you all the fucking time, taking off. And in the model, there's even like there's a plane that's just on loop that gets like taken up on these wires and goes up to the ceiling and then comes back around.
Wow.
So it was really interesting to be in that room and have a microcosm of New York City while you're in New York City at this World's Fair plot.
Yeah.
And just really interesting.
Dude, what is it about like dioramas and like, I mean, maybe I'm just a nerd,
so
but
captivating.
like they're so captivating, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like shrinking scale is like such an interesting, there's got to be something like psychological that we like to see things like, I don't know,
Shrunken,
from a bird's eye view or something. But yeah, even like model car, like I always love like little model cars that are really accurate, and you open them up and there's like a little motor and like the doors open and like, yeah, like seeing, dude, my cousin used to do Civil War dioramas when he was like younger. Like he would like recreate battles and have like the topography like very accurate. And
Dude,
like,
that was my favorite thing to do as a kid with my brothers. We'd play with like we'd get all of our toys out and then we would create a world and we would have these fake battles. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have army men, we'd have like action figures, we'd have like fantasy shit, and like just create this little world that we'd play with, man. I love that shit.
Yeah, so weird. Yeah, so the park itself, you said, was like pretty nice once you were there, like kept up.
I'll tell you my favorite thing about it. My
this
favorite
giant,
thing was walking
this giant
up.
doctor with a mask mural on the ground.
Yeah, dude, they have a whole like exhibit right now that was inspired by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Exciting.
The outside of the museum is
what is this, dude?
here, give me a sec.
This is so can we stop painting shit on the ground? Like, I'm so over that. Like, oh man.
Dude, I feel like we're only getting started with
I
that
know,
shit.
for sure.
Now that I know our stadiums are like eyes for our alien gods.
Well, yeah. That's true. They're not for us. Well, they have a cool little roller coaster.
Yeah, there's still like this little carnival area going in. So I thought of the carny aspect that you brought up.
Yeah.
there's dude, my favorite thing was walking down 111th Street, I think it is. No, it's got to be an avenue. But the stop is 111th Street.
Yeah.
And like, and businesses like have like there were two big, like a grocery store and some other kind of thing that were all like 111 whatever 111 name, which they, you know, that's not that uncommon for businesses to name themselves after part of the address, but
Yeah.
like just thought highlighting it was interesting. And then there were these street vendors before you get to the entrance, and these like Ecuadorian women just selling Ecuadorian food. One of them was just
Were they like a
straight
rape
up
buzz?
roasting this giant guinea pig, bro.
Oh, really? They're doing like, wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is that? It looked like a giant rat. And I'm speaking to them in Spanish, and I'm like, what is that? They're like, it's they said the name. I assumed it was guinea pig because it's kind of like guinea. But she's like, sorry, I don't know how to say it in English. We don't speak English. I'm like, it's all good. So like, and then we get in, and
I had it
there
in
are like
Peru,
a couple of
so I bet it is guinea pig.
yeah.
When I was in
I think
Peru,
so.
I
I'm
had it.
almost
It's kind of oily, honestly. Cuy. Is that what they called it?
maybe.
Cuy. I don't
I
know.
just didn't catch what they said exactly.
Yeah.
But and then like there were two giant pools that are drained, and just these people playing soccer in them.
Sick.
But like and tons of people there to watch, like just like Salvadorians or Salvadoreños,
What's I
South
love
Americans.
I
Like,
love that because like when Robert Moses was in charge of the World's Fair, they had a huge plan to run public rail to the park, to run a metro there. And Robert Moses was like, we're not doing that because like he just didn't want minorities.
they don't want poor people to have access to it. Not easy access.
And it's just like,
That's so crazy.
He's
That's
such
what
a
they
fucking
did with
loser.
Rockaway Beach originally.
yeah.
They made the bridges deliberately too low to have buses pass by underneath.
Dude, it's oh man. That dude, city planning is so racist. It's insane.
Yeah, turns out all of our institutions, and it's so like would be hilarious if it wasn't so sad that like
Yeah.
our schools now are making an attempt to ban critical race theory at least, because it's like the irony is that the theory is about like all these ways that racism remain with us, even though like our institutions have presumably changed on paper. Like there's still institutional racism, it's just not as obvious.
Yeah.
Right. And so now our actual institutions are like, oh, we're not going to allow that kind of teaching. It's like,
Yeah.
so it's just like we're just back to like literal institutional racism, like
Yeah.
like on paper.
I mean, to be fair,
Under the guise of being anti-racist.
yeah. To be fair, I don't know if American schools ever really taught critical theory to begin with, let alone critical race theory.
It's just, yeah, I think our universities are, well, I don't know.
I don't know
my
either because I didn't
university's
go.
good at it. My current university's good at it.
Yeah.
My even the other one I went to, which is very libertarian, like we were definitely taught to think. I mean, it's fucking critical thinking. It's critical theory. Like
Yeah, it's
race,
not.
critical race theory is a subset of critical theory, which basically is a critique of the disciplinary system of our universities, which emerged like late 1800s, early 1900s. It's like this industrialist sort of post-industrial, like mass, as our nation states were entering this era of just like mass, I don't know how to describe it, but like the same thing that allowed for fascism and allowed for the shape that our capitalist states took and communist states, like totalitarianism is just an extreme form of this spectrum that we're all on now, which is that the state is able to wield immense power. So, and especially power by utilizing and also exploiting the mass. So disciplinarity rose up with like this new society that industrialization made possible. And then one of the big like intellectual counter approaches is to call it out for what it is, which is like this specialized system of knowledge where we're no longer given a holistic view. We're no longer taught to criticize the system itself. It's like the state has been trying to train people in these different areas of specialization in order to try to find a place in this giant mechanism, which is now the state and its population.
Yeah. I'm trying to find this video. I cannot find it, but there was a video of like, Slavoj Žižek talking about how, like in society, like what makes a society is basically acknowledging that like certain rights should be taken away. I mean, like that's just kind of how we operate. Like we all agree like this and this isn't something that like, you know, we should be doing. So you like kind of give up those rights. I can't find it, but because there's that famous video of his about freedom that just keeps popping up, and maybe it's in that. I don't know.
Well, there are really interesting expressions of this kind of thinking, and I think this is where you're going with it, and it's a good observation. Like, for instance, in Oscar Gandy's work, which I just started, called The Panoptic Sort, that's one of his starting places. Is he explains that our systems of gathering of data collection are necessarily first and foremost an act of discrimination. Like the system has to be able to identify something, differentiate it from other things, and then prioritize those things. Like that's what our system of data collection has been doing for decades before the internet even emerged on a commercial level.
Right.
And dude,
like, oh yeah, when was that book written?
Like it was published 1993.
Okay. Baby internet. And
yeah, not even like yeah.
Or was it?
I view, and I think like 96 is kind of viewed as like the birth of like commercial home internet.
Yeah. According to the internet, it was commercialized, it self-commercialized in 1995.
Okay, there you go.
But 88 is kind of when it was like, that's like proto early internet, like email, but I think it was mostly military at that point.
Yeah, I don't know why I assume though, like based on the AT&T stuff we were looking at, like their commercials in the 80s, there's definitely like exchange of information going over phone lines between businesses. So I don't know why we don't call that commercial or internet. But for some reason we associate the commercialization of the internet with like when it became home. Like for example,
mass use.
Yeah, exactly.
Because here it says that like there was exchanges between let's see, in July 1989, Ohio State University and a commercial internet email exchange in the UK in 1988. So they were doing some email, but it was very like,
it was between Ohio State and what?
Well, Ohio State was using, let's see. Yeah, Ohio State and a UK email exchange. So that's kind of interesting.
So the network itself must have been commercial.
Yeah.
That's probably kind of what it's saying. And then, even though it was coming from a state university.
Let's see. They were selling dial-up internet on legally questionable basis starting in 1989 and 1990.
Interesting.
And then on approved basis in 92. That was like a dial-up. But yeah, basically 94, 95 is, man, I had it really early. which is probably why I'm so fucking fucked up. Like
I had it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I was in the same boat. We're white suburban,
yeah.
like Americans.
And what's weird is like the industry that my dad is in is completely like it's like so the software and everything they use is like so outdated and clunky, but
Mm.
they were using the internet really early, which is why we got it, so that for his business. And it was like probably
So
90s. I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong, but in my head I feel like it was around 96, 97. I had it, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, me too. Like I remember, um, so my dad always did a decent amount of work from home, and so like he had an interest in having good internet, having internet, and having it good at home. And this is exactly how it rolled out with people like that, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and
Commerce.
so like, dude, I remember like having satellite internet way early, like when we ditched like, what do they call it, LAN or whatever,
Yeah.
or not.
Or no, LAN is local area network. It was dial up, DSL.
But yeah, we used to
I
have
don't
these
know.
little like fucking like shotgun rod satellite receivers next to our computer or like by the window, and like you'd have to like have it pointed the right direction
Wow.
for like best internet. And it sucked ass. Like it was so glitchy. Like when it worked, it was fucking killer.
Yeah.
Like we joked once about like watching you literally used to have to watch pictures load.
Oh yeah.
But so the jump, anyway, yeah, just interesting to think about that stuff now in hindsight.
And now like you get fucking pissed when like even the slightest hint of buffering. I'm just like,
Oh yeah, if you can tell something had to load, you're pissed off.
or not even that. It's like if you have to drop the like frame rate or the quality, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I want to watch this real quick with this.
Go for it.
What is freedom today? In order to be actually free to do what I want, I certainly would like to have state and other bodies taking care of things, not only without my choice, but even without me knowing about them. On the other hand,
point.
are we aware to what extent, when we freely choose, our choices are predetermined? This is why I think the last revelations by WikiLeaks are so important. They are about TISA, T-I-S-A, a mega important trade agreement about the free flow of finances and informations, which is something that will predetermine the contours of world economy for decades to come. And not only are negotiations secret, but we learned that even the agreement itself, if it will be accepted, will remain secret for 5 years. The most dangerous form of non-freedom is a non-freedom which is not even perceived as such. Then there is another form of freedom which I think has a disastrous impact and we shouldn't underestimate it. I met at some point in Belgrade in the late 90s when Milosevic was still in power, some probably ethnic cleansers, nationalists. And I'm even ashamed now for doing this. I got in conversation with them and they gave me a wonderful short lesson on how nationalist fundamentalism worked. They told me, we experience your Western liberal world as over-regulated. You know, you are all the time bombarded by messages of be politically correct, don't be a racist, be careful what you eat, discipline yourself, and so on and so on. And as they told me openly, I want to eat whatever I want, smoke, I want to steal when I want to beat women, rape them, and so on. And becoming a nationalist, doing some ethnic cleansing, give me this terrifying freedom. This is why
Jesus.
I was not
Fuck.
surprised when I heard that in the area of Iraq and Syria controlled by ISIS, it's not just religious fundamentalism. There are also gang rapes, tortures, freelance killings, and so on. You see, this is the problem of fundamentalism. It's not just there is no freedom. There also is this kind of false freedom, the explosion of this obscene freedom. For me, the highest form of freedom is love. Here I'm a pathetic old romantic. Love basically means that you totally dedicate yourself to one other person. You renounce one of the key freedoms of choice to exchange sexual partners and so on. Now comes my surprise. This freedom is now gradually taken from us. I think our ideal today is love without the fall. And you know, I found some dating agency which plays on this. They say, we will render possible to you to find yourself in love without the fall. No, I think the only free love is the fall. You walk along the street, you slip on a banana peel, a lady helps you, maybe it will be the love of your life. But you cannot predict it. Without this fall, love is not love. So the lesson is true freedom means looking into and questioning the presuppositions of everything that is given to us by our hegemonic ideology. And by ideology, I don't mean here some explicit teaching, but simply the way in our daily lives we experience our reality. To question everything, including the notion of freedom itself.
Interesting.
I would like to note too that Zizek's, I think he's been married like 6 times or something. No, but he had a super hot wife.
No, did he?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know his work at all, almost at all. I've seen videos with him. He's very entertaining. Like,
yeah.
he's a very like lovable character. But I haven't read anything by him. I'm a little bit, to be completely honest, I'm a little worried about not liking him once I do. But he brings up interesting points.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like why he always defaults to like the racism thing, and that's like where he like gets all like where him and JP are like comfortable is he's like they don't like the current. I don't know exactly what his position is, but to me it bothers me that he would default to that, and maybe that's what actually came up in the conversation with these nationalists. But like, it's not the first time I've heard him criticize like crying wolf on racism.
Yeah.
Because it's like there are an unlimited number of things you could point to that would demonstrate what he's trying to say that aren't like an important current social effort to make change within our society. It's like, dude, that's why you hear people calling people out for racism. It's a moment so he associates that, at least in that video, with just like the nature of our system. It's like, dude, the nature of our system is not to call people out for racism. I mean, I know that he's yeah, whatever. We don't have to go down that road, but but he brought up some really interesting things in that.
Yeah.
Who's this?
I think it's his ex-wife.
Wife that he got.
Smoke show.
That's so hilarious and dumb.
I think he himself says that he's written the same book 30 times or something like that. You know,
philosophers usually do.
Yeah, totally. So I only have one of his books, and then I have a book by Mao Zedong that he like did the foreword to and has some like notes to. But yeah, I haven't read
Interesting.
a lot of his work, but I enjoy him.
Um,
I think he's actually better in video. But again, I haven't read it. But like or I should say, he's not better, but he's
he has
very
a public persona.
he's very good with media, and like his like pervert's guide videos were really great, and like yeah, he's a very entertaining person.
For sure.
Trash raccoon, as they say.
Trash raccoon. What's that?
It was like a Twitter meme that was going around about. There, I'll pull it up. It's really funny. Let's see, where is it?
Dude, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I got to counteract this coffee somehow.
Yeah, it's a perfect idea.
You say now. Also, it's kind of fun to pretend like that's a problem still.
Yeah. Damn, where is it? Maybe it wasn't a meme. Maybe I just made this up in my head.
Bro, we definitely have all sorts of memes floating around in our head. That's kind of how our head operates.
Bro, I was
when we're not being
watching.
critical.
I was watching. Do you know who Teenage Stepdad is? Oh yeah, here it is. Oh, it was Brandon Sutton that tweeted this. This guy's cool. Here, we'll read the tweet.
Can I just
first.
say, like, speaking of the internet, I feel like I'm finally graduating to some degree.
From the internet?
And to another degree. Yeah, I'm just so obviously old now when I go on Reddit that I'm like,
Oh yeah.
Dude, I can't. Like, I've always hated the level of dialogue on Reddit from the beginning, because that's
Sure.
what it is. Like,
Trash.
it's a microcosm of our whole society. Or, the structure of our society. So, and then but now it's on together with that. It's like, I can't hang out with kids, bro. Like, it's just too much. And the population of Reddit might start getting older at some point, but the growth of the website has so far out exceeded the age of the core population that the average age has just continually gone down. So I don't know where it's at now, but it's like, dude, so fucking annoying. I think I'm just gonna I also watch way fewer films than I used to, but I still really enjoy it when I do it.
Yeah. I've been making a conscious effort to watch movies again. Put the phone down and put on a classic film and just try and engage with it, because it's insane how little I do that now. And in high school, I literally would go to Top Hat Video. Shouts out to Top Hat. It's a video rental place in Bountiful, Utah that's still open. Please support it if you can.
Every time it comes up, we're going to pretend like it's the first time we've spoken about it.
I know.
Top Hat's the shit.
I would go on a Monday and rent 7 VHSs or more sometimes and just watch them through the week at home. I had a little TV with a VHS player built in my room, and I would just consume everything.
You were on small screen viewing.
Yes.
Way before it was cool. Actually, it was way cool back then.
Yeah. But here's that tweet. It says Zizek is way more interesting than Peterson. Peterson is a run-of-the-mill huckster using his degree in a semi-related field to prey on alienated college-aged males. 100%. Zizek is a raccoon who lived in a dumpster behind a university's library who was transformed into a human by a witch. Facts.
That's hilarious.
Straight up facts.
But also, I hate the whole fucking like side playing, dude. Because like
Yeah.
again, like I expect to not like a lot of what Zizek says. I can just feel it. But and I think I own a book by him. I think I started it, but like this will happen to me sometimes where it's like reading a book's work, you
Yeah.
know, and just sometimes based on the tone, the style,
It
the
doesn't
the
vibe.
topics, you're just like not right now. You
Yeah.
know, it's gonna have to be another month, like
Totally.
or whenever. So I think I did that with Zizek. I've done that like 3 times with
Yeah.
Wittgenstein, where I'm just like,
Not
okay, yeah,
today.
I see where you're going with this. Like nothing you've said so far I find to be original, and so to take the time that I'm going to need to see what other people see in you, can't do that right now.
Yeah.
Like, so same with films, bro. So I was going to
Yeah.
say in
Oh,
response
yeah.
to what you just said, like, dude, I don't know if you've tried getting into Tarkovsky yet, but like his films are work. Like
Yeah.
they're you have to be engaged. You
Yeah.
have to have what you might call like proactive viewing. And it's not always going to be pleasant, like, but neither is reading a book. So like The Mirror, I started that again the other day, or Mirror. And it's just reminded, like, dude, I fucking love the opening scene to Mirror.
Yeah.
It just does so much to like dismantle your preconceived notions about what a film is. And that's what I love about Tarkovsky, is he utilizes the medium as well as better than anyone I know.
It's so beautiful. His work with light is just unparalleled.
And the his composition in every sense of the word
Yeah.
is incredible. The movement of the camera, the positioning, the framing, the lighting, like the staging. And then like he will so often surprise you. And then that's when you're like, fuck. That's when like all the just sort of like just tedious moments are imbued
Pay
with like
off.
greater meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I haven't let's see, I'm trying to think. I know I watched Solaris in high school. But
So good.
dude, I watched so much stuff in high school that just it for me looking back, I feel like it was very all the films I watched were very formative, but only on a very base level of just like sort of shocking my system of like what's possible and just being excited by art in general.
Mhm.
But I never really sat with anything, and a lot of times I would watch things because I knew that like Tarantino liked it, or like I mean I got
You got into like certain currents of
yeah, and just kind of like
appreciation.
this I should enjoy this because this is what filmmakers enjoy.
Yeah.
Like
See, for me,
and that's
that was one of
important
the-
as a kid. Like I think that's very important to just blast through that stuff, but I never like returned and sat with stuff like I watched like Ingmar Bergman films and like
interesting.
I watched Solaris. I don't think I saw anything else that he did. I got really into like Buster Keaton, but just sort of like from afar of like this is what art is and I'm supposed to like this. But I haven't returned to a lot of that stuff and been like, okay, why is this considered like very
The more
high art?
experienced, informed, critical view.
And I've actually returned to a lot of Coen Brothers stuff this past week. I had like a little film marathon like 3 weeks ago, and I watched a bunch of stuff, but I watched like 3 Coen Brothers. I've always been a Coen Brothers fan, and that's a little more digestible because it's funny and it's kind of pulpy and but watching it again and like really trying to engage with it, it's like, damn, this shit's like so smart. it's like so well written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been meaning, just haven't, life, like the world is just like so crazy right now. We haven't had time to do any of the side like really the stuff we planned on doing when we set out to do a podcast. Like let's just try to provide some historical context first. And now we're just literally like play by play. We're doing like play by play commentating on Cold War II.
Yeah. Cold War II, China Boogaloo. Let's go. Let me bring my boy back.
Who's that? Winnie the Pooh?
Yes. Oh God, dude.
Fuck.
But
yeah, dude, like a lot of what we've been saying has sort of indirect like application to where I hope our conversation surrounding China goes, or at least I would like to start there to some extent. Like all these like efforts to label things and process them and understand them in the context of our society currently, and also like our civilization historically, or civilizations. And like I feel like we're running into, like, that's what I've been telling people for years in my circle of friends regarding like race dialogue, or dialogue about race in America, is that like we're suddenly finding ourselves, we had a lack of vocabulary to even have that conversation. And the fact is, like, not only does it need to always be updated, but like we'll never get it right. So like we have to continue to have dialogue. And so like what we were doing, and I'm talking like 8 years ago or whatever, kind of like as like before, but like in parallel with BLM emerging, like I just noticed we were having to resort to like the civil rights era for vocabulary and conceptions to try to engage in dialogue now. And I think we've sort of had a flood in of like what we were just talking about, which is like race, like critical theory in general, to the what's this may not be the case, but my perception is like to the average conservative, like right winger, not conservative, but like right winger now, thinks that it's been this like huge takeover of our university system that's like corroding from the inside and shit. But it's like, no, dude, it's a theory that was successful. This has been happening forever. You might want to read a book. Sorry,
Not
I
gonna
don't want to
happen,
dehumanize the opposition, because
Not
I'm so
gonna happen.
constantly criticizing. Start saying shit, bro. I'm gonna be busy.
Well, just as you were talking about that, my head instantly went to Mark Fisher, R.I.P., and he wrote a small essay called "What If They Had a Protest and Everyone Came?"
Mm.
So I was kind of thinking about it from like sort of the opposite side of the spectrum of like sort of this like co-opting of that vocabulary and those movements to like sort of validate and like you know, pat yourself on the back without actually like accomplishing anything. And yeah, I honestly don't really know like what to do with that information of like I don't know. I feel like
You're sorry, dude. I'm so ripped. You're saying
It's cool.
Nothing related to anything I've done while this recording's been happening.
yes. What do you mean? You've been lifting weights all day, bro. You're ripped.
Oh, I do that too, bro.
Dude, bro.
Oh wait, we're recording.
No, but
this
just
shit
this
again.
like this idea that like, well, okay, maybe elaborate a little bit on what you're saying with like using vocabulary from the civil rights, because maybe I kind of missed it.
So I brought that up. I brought that up because like I feel like we're running into the same thing today with geopolitics, with global politics is a better word because we are less constrained by geography than ever. although that's clearly still a huge
Sure.
factor. So fine, let's go with either.
Yeah.
Global geopolitics. Like we're forced to resort to terminology and conceptions of the Cold War to try to process what's happening today with China. And we are nowhere near that, just like we are nowhere near what the pre-civil rights era looked like coming into BLM. Like we're in a different world now, but there are tons and tons of parallels. And so like certain generations are going to be tasked with developing vocabulary, to update vocabulary more than other generations are. Like
right.
you can only focus on so much, and there's also like there are mass movements and whatever. So we're in this period where it's like China and so we've like our teenage years, late teenage and like early adulthood were defined by dialogue surrounding terrorism.
Yeah.
And war. We were talking about war all the time because we were
war
in a
on terror.
seeming perpetual state of war.
Yeah.
Like we just barely pulled out of Afghanistan, bro. Like that's been our entire fucking adulthood.
Dude.
And late youth.
Third of our life has been at war with
sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
And you and I have been approaching it, trying to with a critical view for most of that time with like varying levels of energy. So like yeah, it's like to you and me, the idea that like the United States is a military empire, using empire somewhat figuratively, like that is so obvious to us.
Yeah.
Well, I only say that to distinguish it from like literal empires that like one way of looking at it is like legally, like we, as just a simple matter of fact, we aren't an empire. Also, like we're not a colonial power, not anymore. Like the system of colonialism from a legal standpoint is gone. And this is why critical theory is so important, because then it's like, but that's only one aspect of a system.
Well,
like,
we still have colonies though.
It's basically just the bones.
Gotcha.
Do we?
I
we
mean,
have territories. And I understand that they're very similar. And I think your point is like we have to like parse through that, but it's not a colony legally.
Yeah,
there were powers associated with the legal designation as a colony, depending on the imperial system in question. You see, so I'm just pointing out that like there has been an actual legal transformation. We aren't technically an empire, but the way that we operate on the globe has certain very obvious parallels with traditionally imperial powers. For one thing, military. Like we have bases all over the world. So it doesn't, in that sense, it doesn't matter that we don't call them a colony. But it isn't the same as occupying it as a colonial force.
But so like, yeah, but I mean, to me, that's just like legal jargon. Because like, I would argue that like Hawaii is still a colonized state. Puerto Rico, Samoa, like, I mean, the United States is a colonial state. I mean, we like came over here and genocided the natives and pushed them onto reservations so that we could build.
Okay, so this is a perfect example. This is exactly what I'm talking about with this notion of like having to resort to prior times in order to have conversations today. And consider the fact that, you know, we're talking about the legal sphere, but look at academia now. In academia, in sociology and other disciplines, there is a notion of post-colonialism. Mm-hmm. And so there has to be a linguistic difference between what's happening now and what happened before, even if we just call it post-colonialism. Because when I say post-colonialism, you know what I'm referring to.
Right.
So that term does have meaning, and it's operable within like history and sociological spheres. So like there's the legal, there's also the academic, there's also business.
Philosophical.
The way that business Yeah, certainly. But the way that businesses can operate in other countries, like that has changed over and over again. But
Yeah.
it's older than empire, like the modern empires. No, that's not true. But it's older than, it's what do you call it? It's existed both under a colonial system and the present day, right? Like, anyway, this shit's never endingly complicated. Sure. But like, so when we're trying to describe the United States, like, is it an empire or is it not? Are we colonial or are we not? Like, we're using words that were literal in the past. It's the same way we talked about, like, I'm going to hang up my phone. Oh, like, okay. That's like, I'm not going to hang up my phone, except metaphorically. And most people don't know that's a metaphor, or it's an analogy or a
illusion.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, it used to refer to something literal, but now we refer to something metaphorically to convey that we're actually going to end the call. So like, we're the same thing then has happened with like the term colonial. Like, we're forced to, if we use it slightly more metaphorical, but it's still conveying something about the real world. It's still, so like, you want to be able to describe the dynamic of power that is still operating today, that previously was obvious and more literal under a colonial system. And it is absolutely still operating today. But it's like, what do we call that? It's very difficult. So we come up with terms like the global South.
Right.
Instead of third world, because we're no longer in this thing that we called the Cold War.
Right.
You see? So like, once the legal landscape changes, or the political landscape, or the military landscape, any of these major forces of power that engages in a new, like, transforms and is now operating in a new kind of mode, everything has to shift with it or account for it. Or, it's like, God, I'm using hand gestures like Jordan Peterson. I better shut the fuck up.
You better start crying soon, dude. It's the only way to reach maximum level of cleaning your room is to cry. I'm just kidding. I cry all the fucking time. It's fine. I don't know. Like, it kind of sounded like a little bit Baudrillardian of this. Fuck, like, I know, dude. I know you hate him, but I feel like you're becoming him.
Sorry, I know I've been talking a lot, but let me try to wrap it up by saying this: that like, this is sort of what this kind of thinking. Sure, you're going to see elements of it from Baudrillard and vice versa, but it's because it's like, this is very postmodernist,
right?
And I know everyone's heard that term a million times, including because of that frogman. But like, sorry, again, it shouldn't dehumanize opposition. That's one of the things I hate the most.
I love it.
Fuck.
Why do you wear makeup at work?
Oh. Postmodernism. So like, one of the major critiques of modernism is criticizing that propensity to label to begin with. Like, the idea that that Europe was modernizing was a very powerful idea and has been for centuries. The question is, with who? With whom? Like, you have and like, who decided that, right? It wasn't an individual decision. It was collective, but it wasn't the entire collective. So like, people start to criticize this because it's like, was Europe really modern? In what ways? What did that term even mean to begin with? What did that term become? And so like, the irony of labeling this time now postmodernist is because, of course, like, that label itself is in some way committing the same crime, the same error, where it's like, hey, we've got a new label, we're no longer modern, we're postmodern.
We're post, yeah.
And it's like, how do we define when did it begin? These are endless academic debates. When did modernism begin? well, with the emergence of the nation state. No, it was with Machiavelli's The Prince. No, it was just with the discovery of America. Like, and so it's like, all right, well, whatever the fuck it was, it appears to be around the 1500s, the turn of the century. Okay, let's slap it there.
Yeah.
No, I disagree. It doesn't matter. The consensus is blah, blah, blah. And like, before you get anywhere, like the world has changed anyway. But so we're forced to try to operate with these labels or modes. And guess what? That is the basis of the root of the word modernism.
Yeah, it was kind of like that video I sent you of that, like, I don't know what, some TikTok about like how the Dark Ages was actually like, I don't know. She was like trying to like critique the Dark Ages, that there really wasn't a Dark Ages, and like, you know, there was all this great art going on, and it's like, well, yeah, but like, that's not what we're really talking about.
Critical thinking.
Yeah.
Right. But also, like, you could do that with any label.
Well, that's why.
But where it really gets on level of mindfuck, which like philosophy has known from the beginning of what we call philosophy, is that like it's the same with our words. Well, I shouldn't say it's been debated since the beginning. So like, but like, to me, I would argue every word is a generalization. So like, whatever you can do with language, it always falls short of reality.
That's what Terence McKenna said.
And
he like wanted to like transcend language.
Well, everything transcends language, but also language has power. But like language, you think of it in evolutionary terms, like language just entered the game like really, really recently. Except, of course, like there are parallels. The same. So we run into the same problem. Like there's parallels of language in other parts of the animal world, but historically, we've considered what the people called mankind as distinct from animal, and one of the points of distinction was language. That's flawed in my view, but I understand why humans would do that. But see, so every single act of labeling is an act of discrimination. This is what Gandhi is saying, criticizing our what he calls the panoptic sort, is it reflects the biases of the society. And like, he starts with the credit system, bro. Like the Nazis started the credit system. And what did they look at? 4 categories: age, marital status, the income, and race. Why would they be interested in that one? You know? So, but all of these fucking Western countries were operating with legal notions of race, man.
Yeah.
That's why we're still talking about it.
Right.
And so for the audacity and or the ignorance of a white American to say, why are you so focused on racism? Because of you, you dumb fuck. You started it. It's the only reason we're having to still talk about it today. But we're always going to have to talk about it in terms of understanding it as a historical concept. So many tangents deep, dude. It's like an onion, but that's sort of what I'm trying to explain about where I wanted to take it, which is with China. Now, when we try to figure out what's going on with China economically, politically, culturally, like, you have to try to invoke these words from the past, but they always meant something different. So it's like the obvious one is communism.
Right.
Is China communist? No.
I mean,
or is it? Or is it? And then in what ways?
Even leftists and communists argue about that all the time. Is it a state controlled market? Is it market capitalism? Is it a mix of socialism and capitalism?
Is it state capitalism?
Is it state capitalism, like I mean, I don't know. I'm just like barely starting to kind of like scratch the surface of some of this stuff, but like I do know that there was like a pretty big uh rift with Mao and Deng Xiaoping of like how to proceed with the economy. But the thing is like we don't live in a communist world, so and because of globalization and because we're so connected and intertwined, like there has to be concessions like all around. And like you said, it's like this sort of new kind of this new thing. like
Absolutely.
working with Western countries, working with fully capitalist countries, whatever, but working with
So my
capitalist
understanding,
countries and just trying to like navigate that. It's like, people will criticize Cuba and talk about how poor they are or how, they have food shortages and all these things. But when you look at like sanctions that the United States has put on Cuba, it's like they can't engage even with countries that are sympathetic to Cuba. They can't even engage with them because of sanctions that say that companies that even deal with the United States can't deal with Cuba. So like they're getting completely strangled, and yet when it comes to China, we're just like, yeah, sure, like I don't know, let's just manufacture a lot of our clothes and a lot of our toys and tech items and all this stuff there because we have cheap labor, and they have this like huge growth in a middle class, and like so we're willing to engage with them but not Cuba. I don't know, it's just like it's a totally different relationship.
yeah. And we are so powerful now that, again, relatively, right? Talking like, or specifically like militarily, economically, right? Like we have a lot that China doesn't. We focus on GDP because it's the easiest way to show that like something's fucking happening in China.
Well, we still enjoy the spoils of empire. Like we've I mean, I know we were mentioning earlier that we not legally technically considered an empire, but we have colonized places. We have enacted empire on the world. We've extracted resources from other countries. And so, we still enjoy the fruits of the empire. Like,
yes. And I would add to that the fruits, the spoils of victory.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That is for my money one of the top descriptive ways you could understand what's happening now is just still in terms of the victors of World War II, and you can add to that the victors of the Cold War. So
which is why, I was going to say
includes China, both of those. And so that is for me the number one factor here is that like we fucking we do not like nationalizing.
No.
We do not like countries taking over corporations.
No.
We permit it in Europe more than we permit it at home.
Yeah, look what we did to Chile, Bolivia, Nicaragua, Panama. It's just like we don't play that over here, sadly.
Oh, we will go to war over it, except with
China.
one of our most significant allies in World War II, who's always had a seat on the permanent members of the Security Council of the United Nations. But here, sorry to get all academic again, but like this is another very interesting like confusion and conflict in language, or just our modes of operating, right? This labeling and this like processing. So I've heard of the big three a million times in my lifetime, like, in these pictures of like Stalin with FDR with Churchill. It's like UK, America, and the Soviet Union were like these titans of the Allies and the victors over World War II. But guess what, dude? There's also the Big Four. Do you know who the fourth person is? Or the fourth nation? China. So it's like, think of how often they're left out of that.
Wait, from World War II?
Yeah.
How? They were like getting completely like annihilated by Japan. Right?
But who was at war with Japan? Eventually.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Us.
Yeah.
They're one of the most important allies. But this is the thing. Look how new this is to you and I.
Right.
To you and me. Like, how many fucking lessons in your lifetime have you had? And I'm sure it's been mentioned.
They didn't even
I'm not saying we don't cover it.
They don't even teach you that the Soviets defeated the Nazis. They won't even tell you that in school.
I mean, well, what do you mean exactly? You mean that like it was mostly a result of their efforts?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I feel like I had as good an understanding of that as I did of like the big three, but I also studied a lot more history and
on your own. But pop
by
culture
choice in college,
pop culture, movies, high school, like none of that talks about the Soviets being like they kind of casually
highlighted during the Cold
they
War,
casually mentioned they were an ally, and then but only because like geographically they were and they were against the Nazis too, but once we defeated the Nazis they were our next enemy, when literally they lost like 22 to 27 million people, and like by the time I mean, they were the major force in the European theater. Like, it's very underplayed in the United States.
It's certainly. I think I totally agree with your criticism of like it's certainly not focused on culturally.
No,
and by culturally I mean in all these areas that affect like Hollywood and television.
But that's
and
where we get our information as Americans. Like,
yeah,
very few people dive into like actual historical texts.
Well, and also another way of looking at it is that like our biases manifest in all areas of society. So it's like but there's something real being expressed in that bias, which is like for that same reason the Soviet Union wasn't part of the Manhattan Project.
No. I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, exactly. Like that is what is the defining like that's the win is the atomic bombs. Even though
but also like they weren't part of that because the relationship wasn't perfect. Yeah, there wasn't like clearly, I mean, in every way we are related quite literally in a lot of cases to the UK. As like our political system, our legal system, our culture, our language, most like a lot of people who live here, not most, but like a lot of I think most white people still of like English blood like in America. Oh, this is really fascinating, by the way. Like English Canadians engage in, what do you call it?
Fucking
what is the term?
Going to Hortons and having donuts and coffee.
No, but they have to mobilize. They have to organize. That's the word. They have to organize, and they organize in Canada, because they're not the dominant group.
Right.
Here in America, we do Canadianize.
Canadian and Fergen. Dude, I mean,
shouldn't make it. Hey, dude, that's bias right there, dude. 100%.
No, I mean, let's be real. Canada's America. Like, we don't. It's fine.
No, but I'm saying the fact that we resort to a Southern accent to like convey.
Well, yeah. Have you ever been to Alberta?
I was trying to make fun of Americans there. I feel pride in my heart that you assumed I was making fun of the Canadians.
Okay, good.
Canada was part of the Manhattan Project. That's so what, but I bring that point up to highlight that like there was more, like we actually weren't politically as close. Like it was a tentative relationship. We were allied for the sake of defeating Germany.
Well, yeah. I mean, it only took 2 years after World War II to like start the Cold War, essentially. Like the Truman Doctrine started in 1947.
But and think of like how much we're learning about the Soviet Union and the Cold War, and then consider how much still of an afterthought China is.
Oh yeah.
To all that. And they were an afterthought in every other way too, but they were at the table, and that's what is important to understand. It's
I just barely learned that the U.S. invaded China after World War One.
I didn't know that. Go on.
Well, just China was in the middle of a civil war. Let me actually, maybe it wasn't. Was it World War One? With the hold on.
Yeah. So the Republic of China broke with the communists, right? Tried to stamp them out, and like civil war broke out. That's probably way too reductive or just straight up wrong. But like, yeah, dude, this is what fucking blew my mind. Sorry to jump ahead, but like, so the result of that civil war is the People's Republic of China, governed by the Chinese Communist Party, which won the war under Mao, right? That's when Mao came to the head. So what was the Republic of China was pushed back and reduced down to just one of the, what's the right word? Provinces? And it's fucking Taiwan.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I had no idea. The fact that I didn't know that, it's embarrassing. But it's also a reflection of our national biases, which is what we're trying to get at. Like, so the Republic of China is now confined to Taiwan. The previous rulers of this, like, or political affiliates of this group that had control of China and was ousted by the communists is in Taiwan. That explains so much in terms of our relationship with Taiwan. But like we were never cool with, we were always assholes to the Republic of China. Like, I don't want to say it that reductively. Like they're like a second class global power.
Yeah.
The same way that like, you know, we only allowed legally like assimilation literally over centuries at this point, with the black population in America trying to deny, like, so much fucked up shit. But like on a international level, we've treated China that way. But they've always, like I said, they've always had a place at the on the Security Council of the United Nations, along with Soviet Union. Interestingly, the Soviet Union became now it's just Russia, and the Republic of China became the People's Republic of China. But the UN acknowledged that, I think, without delay at all, like without hesitation. It's like, okay, it's now the People's Republic of China. You have a seat at on the Security Council.
Right.
You have replaced the Republic of China. But those fuckers have been on Taiwan this whole time, dude. That's so gnarly. That is so gnarly. And so Taiwan claims, they still call themselves the Republic of China, and they claim that they have jurisdiction over all of China. They're just not currently in power. And the People's Republic of China, which has control of almost all of mainland China, asserts the same thing. They say Taiwan is one of our provinces. We just don't have, it's part of our jurisdiction. We just aren't governing it right now. So it's really fucking fascinating, bro. And that's why Taiwan is at the crux of
Yeah.
international tensions.
Well, yeah, it's crazy because I was just reading. I just started that book, Jakarta Method, and he goes into the history of like Mao. Was like very excited or I guess not excited, but like Mao felt like he could have good relationships with the United States.
Yeah.
And so did Ho Chi Minh. Like they referenced the U.S. Constitution. They were excited about like, egalitarianism and like this freedom, and like we just were like, no.
Like excited to be part of the international community.
Exactly.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I think it was shit.
Dude, and also they fucking overthrew their dynastic system. Is
I
that the
know.
word? They're like their dynasty that was in place, like that system was in place for
Total
what?
I
For
don't know,
thousands of years. Like
Yeah.
like over two. I can't remember how far back it goes. I
Dude,
think
I gotta
almost
go.
to 3,000.
I gotta go pee real quick. Hang on.
Okay, go for it.
Talk amongst yourself, folks.
What's up? I'm sure that was real
talk
funny,
amongst
dude.
yourselves.
Way to leave me sitting here like a fucking asshole, dude. Good thing we don't have any viewers.
Wow, captivating stuff, Eric. Really kept the audience going there.
I had to do my like 30 seconds of research to serve as the basis of the bullshitting for the next 2 hours.
Dude, I know. I kind of like a little bit high. So I'm like trying to find this thing that I don't even know what I'm trying to find anymore.
Well, I was gonna say this, dude.
Yeah.
Like they overthrew their dynasty system in 1911, bro.
Yeah.
Like as Americans and Western Europeans, we should have been so stoked on that shit if we truly believed in that, like the superiority of republican systems over monarchies. Like that just happened in China, bro. The 1900s. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
And you had major, obviously the obvious parallel is Soviet Union, and I guess that answers the question. We had similar reservations about getting friendly with China as we did with to the situation with the Soviet Union. But layered on top of that was these prejudices against like what we call less developed economies and different ethnicities, different races. So it's like China was like this second class antagonistic state.
Yeah.
And like to the point that we couldn't celebrate with them for like fucking doing what we did 200 years less, like 150 years before. Like, why weren't we fucking stoked as hell on that shit, bro? We should have been like, dude, good job. Welcome to the international community. We're interested in hearing your ideas on economics. Here are our hours. Instead, dude, it's like, oh, no, not so fast. Not so fast.
Yeah.
We actually don't care about
We don't.
Republican forms of government on an international stage.
No, we just want us to be.
In that case, we just care about power per se. And
Exactly.
sorry, you're not strong enough for us to care.
So remind me again why we're not an empire.
Because it doesn't say that on the document.
Gotcha.
That's literally what I'm saying.
Copy that. Yeah. Oh man. No, it's crazy. Like there's just so much just fucking rabble rousing around China and like just like how they're gonna take over and like it's like we don't like 99% of Americans don't even understand the economy over there. They don't understand the culture.
Oh,
I don't either. I'm like barely starting to learn it and I don't understand any of it. And we're so intertwined. It's such a like, you know, just completely connected economy. Like it's not, I don't know. That's my point. I have no idea
sure.
and neither do you.
Dude, as I'm sure you and any listener who's listened to more than one episode would know, or who's listened to any episode, like, as you can imagine, I was Googling Japan Olympics, Tokyo Olympics on the news a lot, like looking for articles, reading articles, right? I've been trying to do that with China, bro. It's impossible. Do you want to know why? Because we just don't. They don't get the same media coverage as Tokyo, as Japan, and that is by design. We have
different internets.
Yeah, it's by design in more ways than one. Like, in other words, like intentional propaganda, and also just it's a reflection of lack of the same kind of coordination and, like you're saying, this intertwined, this interweaving of all sorts of different systems and institutions.
Yeah.
Right, including media, including legal, including business, including obviously government, but like international. So another interesting thing is like China joined the World Trade Organization, I think in 2001. And that's huge.
Yeah.
I don't even know all the implications of that, but that's huge. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how and where the respective powers are choosing to draw the line.
Yeah.
Like China backing out of crypto 100% now that it's obvious what's happening.
Now that it's obvious it's a pyramid scam.
Bro, we love we love calling our own predictions, dude, but like something I definitely did not see was like the pandemic being extended to the point that there would be no international spectating at even the China
Beijing,
Olympics.
yeah.
I did not think this would still be going on until, the last few months, I realized we might only be in the middle of it.
Well, their numbers are really low still.
Oh, totally low. They're
so that's
zero.
basically the point is like, we're not gonna. Dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah. So all that needed to happen for China to have no international spectators is for us to botch it long enough.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't know if I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but they've only had
probably accurate
4,600 deaths.
Dude, their goal is zero cases.
Yeah.
If they're not at 0 cases, they're still trying to get there. That's their policy.
Insane.
So, and then
we're at like 700,000.
I don't have to begin to even start to describe to you what it's like over here. Everyone's very aware.
This is mind blowing.
But dude, like they're in their own fucking dome.
And they always have been, like you said. Like,
yes,
disregard them. They're the fourth. They like, they
so
have.
So Bro, when the Expo 2020 in fucking
Dubai, let's go.
has a fucking Corona logo
Oh yeah, let's
and a
find that.
crowned dome that fucking like, and they're highlighting like viruses in their promotional material, dude. Like, think of China, bro. Think of being like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Wait.
Like Dubai too. Like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, look at fucking Astana, which is now Nur Sultan in Kazakhstan, which was going to fucking host the Olympics. There's the only other thing on the ballot with
Kazakhstan
China.
was gonna host the Olympics.
It was the only other thing, dude. We ensured that China would have the Olympics in 2022.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember who else it was. Sweden or Switzerland. They're the same country, right?
Pretty much.
They like somebody backed out because of like they had some concerns. The other two, like, dude, literally every country was taken off the ballot except for Kazakhstan, and then it went to China. So you look at their capital, bro, and it's just like it couldn't be more clearly like, hey, the ruling power in Kazakhstan is the same on some level as the ruling power in DC.
Yeah.
Like they didn't write that, but everything else indicates it.
Let's see.
Our journey is evolving.
Come on, bro. It's loud.
Each day, we take another step forward on our shared path.
Oh, is this the one?
We are
that
all
has the-
connected,
No.
and we all collaborate.
No,
What is this thing?
In some
anyways?
ways that are obvious,
I haven't seen this
and
one.
many which aren't.
But I just mean in general, what is the
With your
Dubai
support and
Expo
commitment,
2020?
we look forward to a brighter future.
Dude, it's the current international
And we are
exposition.
excited
It's the
to
World's
announce
Fair.
that
World's
Expo
Fair.
2020 Dubai will now open its gates from October 1st,
It's
2021
the cube in the
until
dome.
March 31st, 2022. For the world to come together and celebrate human brilliance and achievement
I think we should try and
like
go
never
next
before.
year.
We are one.
Bro, I'm 100% down to go.
I gotta make some money because I want to go to that.
We have to like make our podcast more controversial before now and then, because it would be sick to get taken out of the World's Fair.
They're like, sir, yeah, right. They would love us. We're like in support of everything. Wait, where's the one video that's like,
It has Will I Am in it. Just
has-
look for Will I Am.
yeah, and like, dude, my cat is going crazy.
And just like the coronavirus on it.
Oh yeah, here it is, dude.
Bro, I've been, dude, I have so much I want to say. I apologize to you first and foremost.
1, 2. You weren't there. You weren't there when humans conquered fire, when they wore animal skin attire or invented the bicycle tire. You weren't there when they created algebra, built the pyramids in Giza, or painted the Mona Lisa. You weren't there when they first made paper or built the amphitheater, when they calculated gravity or made flying reality. You weren't there when they composed the classics or discovered antibiotics, made the mechanical clock, or taught the world to rock. But you could be there and with your own eyes witness new acts of human genius. Be there to see the alliance of art, music, fashion, and science. See a futuristic festival filled with ideas new and radical. Performances magical in a 6-month-long spectacle. This you can't afford to miss. It's the best of humankind in the greatest show of our time.
All right, so I guess
So gnarly.
New World's Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just
So sorry to jump in, but so what I'm getting at is, imagine being China and just like on all sides, on all fucking sides, literally, there are indications that like, yo, we all knew what the fuck was gonna happen.
Yeah. in
Like,
your
that's-
country.
That's yes.
Right? Like what I'm sorry.
Just try to blame it on someone else.
What is
Try
this? What is this? What is this
And,
thing
dude,
that came
in a
out
way-
in 2019?
Yeah, October 2019. Bro.
What is this?
We're just full fucking Utopia comic now.
Seriously, dude. Actually,
Uh,
good night, everybody.
yeah, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm fine.
Also,
with
yeah, the
that, dude.
dome, the eye.
Everything. They even talk about crowning the dome, the corona.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, you'd have to say the logo looks like the sun. And it turns out it's the bird's eye view of the dome, which doubles as an eye, and a celestial dome, and the earth.
Yeah.
It's the symbol of our time. It's the icon of the international community. And that's where kind of I was going with that, is like one of the terms that I feel is helpful, even though I don't like it. It's not, none of these are perfect, is like, but it's, you know, we can use it to some extent. Like it's, like I said at the end of our last season, it's the international community versus China. Not, I don't mean versus as in they're our enemy. They aren't. China is not antagonistic. They are our ally.
It's just like
But,
power
like,
struggles.
What we're having to define what will happen with, here's another label, the BRIC nations: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. China is the case study because they're killing it.
Yeah.
And
It's like
the question is, how are these nations going to be brought into the international community in every way? Culturally, economically, propagandistically, like, and, you know, China's taking like an interesting soft beating. not to like downplay the pandemic. The pandemic itself is fucking awful, and everything that go along with it. But like in terms of international power dynamics, like, you know, they were going to roll out their digital currency, the first nation in the world on that of anywhere near that big of an economy was going to debut their digital currency, and we're like, oh, sorry,
Just
none of us
kidding.
can show up.
Yeah.
Literally none of us. We're not boycotting, but literally none of us could show up. Sorry.
yeah.
It's wild, bro. So crazy.
Crazy
They're the
times.
only country trying to have 0 cases, bro.
And they're pretty damn close.
No, yeah, they're in. We created an invisible dome, bro. They did too.
Are
By
they the most
choice, like-
populated country or second most?
I think they're behind India.
India? Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Let's see here.
They're both fucking
China.
massive,
It's
and they're
China's
both
number one,
nuclear.
then India.
They're both nuclear. India is closer to, you know, it's British colony, and lots of affinities.
Yeah,
Both
China's
directions.
the most
And-
populated, then India.
It's really wild, man, because it's in part like just because China wasn't like fully colonized.
Dude, this is crazy though. Like,
And also, sorry, I want to make sure we mention in this first episode, like the only other place on Earth that developed what we choose to call civilization now, outside of like Egypt and the Fertile Crescent, Babylon, Indus Valley, like the only other place that attained that level of complexity was in China around
Yeah.
the same time. It's like mind blowing. And here we are. Like, so it's not coincidence that they are like the holdout in this like new global order that's post Cold War. Like I 100% agree with you. Like we're in a Cold War too. But it's not as scary as the last one. Let's be honest.
No.
Like even American, I think even the typical American, I know they've deliberately been working up Americans with bias and they're directing that toward China. But like, I would guess like the average American doesn't have like an overall negative view of China. If somebody's done that poll for sure, we could look at it, but that, I don't know. They're just not our enemy. Neither was the Soviet Union, but I'm sure
But people
felt like
really
it more than now.
that people really feared that the Soviet Union was going to nuke everything to hell, you know. And I don't think people feel that way about China. What they think is China economically is going to take over. They own our real estate. They're going to build our roads, and we have debt to them, and they're just going to come over here and take our country. And it's like,
yeah, there's a lot of unfounded fear.
No, I mean, I'm sure there's the xenophobia is probably at a very high level right now. But yeah, I don't think that most Americans think that they're gonna like destroy us. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's not an existential fear. It's just like economic fears and.
Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, Americans' views on China go from bad to worse. This is a Pew
but
poll.
That's just from what to what.
But yeah, exactly. Like, I don't even understand what the fuck this means. Like, I don't know. Maybe Americans hate China like crazy. I mean, I hear a lot of I hear a lot of right wingers talking shit, but they talk shit about everything.
That's like the stuff that gets highlighted.
Yeah, and they just
they
just
matters.
talk shit about everything.
It matters, but like it also just gets the most
unfavorable view among Americans at 79%, by far the worst reading since its polling began in 1979. Only Iran and North Korea scored worse. Wow. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
Since when? When was this published?
A few months ago, March 4th.
Damn. Okay, I will call that prediction, by the way, because like when the pandemic, when lockdown didn't end after 3 weeks, I was like, this is war.
Yeah.
Like the only explanation for that. Like I feel it's not totally true now. I don't feel that way exactly now, but like I did go into a mode of like, there is an intentional political element at this point, at least.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to turn into anti-Chinese sentiment. It's not like that was like, I mean, obviously if we were blaming China, but that hasn't been established and it probably never will. We won't let it be established. Like, we're not pressing to really find out that this emerged out of China. The only thing that matters is China and the rest of the world are responding differently to it.
I love this. 54% of Americans think China has mishandled the pandemic, when they're literally like leading the globe on like effective like handling of it.
Well, in terms of like vaccinations, and that's like a really interesting, like the next phase.
Well, it doesn't
of the
say
pandemic
vaccinations;
is going to
it just
be
says mishandled.
Right. Sort of separately, like there are almost more cases in the world than ever, and like we're still going up. So I think what we're seeing, the next phase is like what we call less developed nations that are now dealing with high cases and still don't have the vaccine. It's really fucking sucks. So even if we get out of the pandemic, man, there's going to be a whole tail end of this that affects a whole lot of other countries that aren't as fortunate as we are.
And we probably have business deals in those countries because we have business deals in almost every country.
All right, we got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm so glad to know that I suspected, which is we could just talk for hours about it. But like, but I forgot my thoughts, so let's keep going. I'm just kidding.
Rock and roll.
Oh, I loved how that video, by the way, just like it was just like started with Promethean fire inside an eye, and then just like recapped our first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Shit, bro. What was I gonna say though? Something else about China, like big picture kind of shit. Dude, we couldn't even get to the current events. There's so much wild stuff going on
We'll
now.
have to
which
come
we
back next week.
Intend on covering, FYI.
We didn't even go into like the fucking Sino-Soviet split. Like,
dude, there's so much shit.
Crypto.
There's so much shit. China's tight though. But like
So.
we're again, I hate to say it because like the pandemic itself is so awful. People are literally still dying every fucking minute, and it's not over. And like I said, it's sadly, I think it's. Oh, bro, I was gonna bring up like one thing that's crazy. If you look at carbon emissions, like it may be surprising. It's sad that it's not going down, but it may be surprising to some, as it was to me, that like most like Western developed countries have plateaued or have gone down like slightly. I think America's gone down slightly, but like over the decades, China just skyrockets like in the 2000s, and it looks like they're plateauing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because if you look historically, like Western nations still have way bigger carbon footprint than China has. If you add it as a cumulative over the decades.
And what, not per capita?
No.
Oh, you mean cumulative? Like we fucked up. We've been fucking up the environment
for a lot longer. Yeah.
A century and a half.
They just industrialized so much later, and it's been a very quick uptick. And because of their population, it's so high. But if you look at their commitment to cutting that down, it's who knows what will happen, but it's far more aggressive than any Western country.
Got it. I was gonna say though that like it struck me as being extremely significant because again, it's sort of like a case study. Like, what do we expect to happen in Brazil, Russia, India? Like, not to suggest that they're going to all, again, problematic term, but develop in the same way, but like that is the new immediate potentiality that we're facing now. And like I said, it's almost like China is a case study. And like when I was in my like what do they call it, like something state,
hypnagogic,
like one of the things hypnagogic state this morning, I was like sort of viewing it in a positive way. I think ultimately what's going to come out of this is like we're going to force China to innovate in some really, really important ways, because we're going to be like, look, you can't be industrialized like we were. We know it sucks that we did it first, and that's part of the reason you can't, but also these other countries can't. No, we cannot like
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's but I also think that they're aware of that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the pressure that's being applied, like, dude, they are itching to be a huge player in the realm of soft power.
Yeah.
Right. They're fucking filling something we'll talk about more later, but just filling their country with movie theaters and like controlling their own internet. And like, dude, they are,
it's the fastest growing middle class in the world. Yeah. It's fastest middle.
They're fucking having fun too.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately
fastest growing middle class in the world. They have the highest, medium living wage in the world. Like, they're enjoying and growing this huge economic growth that similar to what America was feeling in the 60s and 70s, and then we tanked it.
So, bro, well, where I see, this is where I hope it goes. This is my like wishful thinking, trying to spin what's happening now in a positive light. I think, for example, The same way that like we not only allowed but encouraged and helped Japan develop as a technological behemoth,
Yeah.
like just driving tech along with us and some other places. Like I think I'm again just thinking like long term. I think we're going to get a lot of really positive innovations coming out of China because we're going to be like, nope, you can't do that. Nope, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Okay, that stuff, cool. And I'm sure they're already doing it. Like, but if China becomes like a leader, if we're like, bro, direct all that shit toward climate change, like direct all that shit toward like making a better world, then fucking have at it. Get as fucking rich as you want to be.
Maybe. I don't know.
Like I said, wishful thinking.
Yeah, I hope.
What's the alternative though? What's the alternative?
Just burn up and die, which is the path we're on.
Well, yeah. So the alternative is for China to ignore that.
No, I don't think
no.
they will. That's what I'm saying. I'm not convinced that, like, kind of what you're saying. I'm not convinced that the U.S. gives a shit about that.
I am.
I hope so.
I'm convinced that the scale has tipped, and I think that what's happening now in the world is a huge part of it.
I hope so.
It was seriously like, we're not going to pump the brakes. We're going to fucking pull the e-brake.
Mash them. Yeah.
And we're going to revisit a whole fucking lot of shit. We have to have a new way forward.
I mean,
and I'm
we
not
do.
saying all the elements of power want the same thing. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And there's a whole landscape of peaks and valleys of power in the world right now operating, like trying to get an advantage. But I do think a major part is like, nope, it is time to restructure, reconsider, revisit, and fucking make changes. And that's part of what I feel like regular people like you and me have to be aware of, is like that's the arena that we are in as like young adults, new adults.
Yeah.
And like, we should fucking take advantage of this. So
Hope so. Well,
either do something really significant or start a podcast.
there be losers like us on Twitch. Cool. Well, that sounds good. Let's wrap it up there, and hopefully we'll go live again.
When we do this again in 6 months.
Yeah. No. I think maybe next week we can pop it off. We have a lot to talk about. This was a little. This was good, although we didn't cover
I feel
anything
like this is
we
good
planned.
groundwork.
Yeah, I think this is a good medium for us, so we'll keep pushing forward with it. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Oh yeah, second day.